So describe in your head what you think a magic seal is. Is it that?
For my next trick. A seal pulling a rabbit out of the hat.
Yeah. Magic seal.
A deck of cards. Pick a card. You pick the wrong one, it slaps you, sprays water in your face. That magic seal.
Yeah.
It's like chopping its seal buddy in half, but it's not really. Now I'll make this seal disappear. It just dives in the water.
It sounds like a bit of a shit magic show.
It's a seal, for fuck's sake. It can't read. It doesn't know how the tricks work.
And yet they let the bugger into the magic circle.
And really excellent references.
From who?
The giraffe. Oh dear, this is stupid.
Yeah, alright. That is not what a magic seal is.
Thank goodness we've got a podcast where I can learn more on this. Today, we're going to talk about sigils and seals and their use in magic. We're not going to talk about seals, the animal.
No.
No matter how much fun it is. But we're going to talk about how these symbols and whatever's, how they're used, what they're for, where they come from, how you can make your own.
It's like Blue Peter. Here's some I made up.
Yeah. Tony Hart, for those of us who are even older. Oh, don't start with it. Every 4 years it comes, Tony Hart's died. Yeah, he died like 100 years ago. It's not a new piece of news. I mean, you can still feel sad, but it's not a new... Anyway. That's not what we're here for.
No.
Seals. Seals.
Yes.
Super old.
Yeah.
As far as pop culture will tell me, ancient sigils, seals, all over the place. Everything. They're from forever ago.
Okay.
Ancient times. Aliens have them.
Aliens?
Yeah, I'm sure there were things like that in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and things like to do with the Inhumans. There's some signs, some sigils, some alien writing, something or other that needed deciphering, and it meant some things, stuff like that.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll make a note of that.
And then aliens. Put them here. Like the cave paintings, they were done by aliens.
Oh, God. Ancient astronauts, yes, okay.
Exactly. Battlestar Galactica. I'm just listing things now.
Yeah.
But they're often used in pop culture. They are used, sigils in particular, symbols, magical symbols. They're everywhere. They're all over the place. Supernatural has its own freaking library of them that do different things for whatever the narrative requirement is at this time. We need to protect ourselves so we can't be found by angels. Here are some sigils. We need to be able to be found by aliens. Oh, not aliens, angels. Here are some sigils. Here's the thing I've tattooed onto myself, a sigil, so I can't be possessed. I've got things on my bones, so aliens, so angels can't find me. I need to banish some angels, so I'm going to draw a sigil and put some blood on it. I need to protect so-and-so. I need to find. I need to do. I need a spookiness. I need to summon. Here is a sigil. I've got another one for you. It's just, oh, look, there's some on the wall. That means something. What does it mean? Nobody knows, but it's there. Here's a special one that summons angels through magical, not music.
Magical, not music?
Yeah, it's like a siren's call or whatever.
K-N-O-T.
No, as in it's not music.
Okay.
N-O-T.
N-O-T.
But it's like a siren's call. So they had one, didn't they, where there was a thing drawn on a wall and it would angels would be drawn to it, like a dog whistle.
Oh,
a literal dog whistle for angels.
Yes.
But it was a sigil, not a whistle.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I like that you've written supernatural down as if this was news for consideration. It's all they do.
Yeah.
Just, here is a sigil.
It is. All right. So there's a lot to unpack in that. I get the sense that you're not a fan of the writing in Supernatural, because should we just kind of laser focus on Supernatural for a bit?
Sure.
We can talk about your aliens and your Inhumans and your angels of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Angels of S.H.I.E.L.D. God, it's difficult, isn't it? Too many A words.
I know. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, no, it's not that I don't like the writing in Supernatural. It's just it feels like sigils are something they lean on very heavily. And it's not so much to start with, but as the seasons progress, and granted I haven't finished the whole thing yet because there's a million of them, but they do just feature more and more prominently as it goes on. So I've drawn this thing over here, it does this. It's like there's a bit where, what was it, Metatron drew some on the spines of some books in secret to do something to Castiel and things like that. It's just like, yeah, it can do whatever you want. Just all you need is a good sigil, possibly a bit of blood, maybe something ancient from, biblical times, and yeah, we're good to go.
Yeah.
Make it so.
Number one. Make it so.
Carry out the spell, number one.
Yeah. To be fair to Supernatural, it does. So the sigils that they use are at least from reality.
Really?
Yeah. They're
real sigils?
No, hell no.
Okay, right.
So, all right, let me just clean that up a bit. So, in Supernatural, Castiel the Angel, and I hate to make this into a Supernatural podcast because
it has been for years.
because there are Supernatural podcasts, so they talk about this language, this ancient language called Enochian, and it's this ancient language that they are reading on the walls of things, as if a sigil is a phrase.
Like hieroglyphics.
Yeah, like hieroglyphics. And they call it Enochian. So in, I think, air quotes, reality, in this world, but I'm not going to use the word reality, but just in this world, Enochian is a language that two fellas called John Dee and Edward Kelly wrote in their grimoires. We don't talk about their books in the one about grimoires, but in season 2's one about grimoires, but they did write these manuscripts to capture what they said was angels talking to them. And they created this alphabet and they called it Enochian, or angelic language, that has then been described as Enochian. They call it Enochian because Enoch was apparently the last person to ever use this language in this world.
Right.
And I don't know if you know your family tree of Adam and Eve, but Adam and Eve,
everyone else.
Yeah.
Isn't that how it goes?
But Adam and Eve had 3 kids, and Cain was one. Abel, sadly, deceased. Because, famous story, Cain and Abel.
I am familiar with the story.
But then they had this other kid.
Derek.
Seth.
I wasn't far off.
You were not far off. And Enoch is a descendant of Seth.
Okay.
So I mean, loads of people were called Enoch. Loads of people in Bible times. So you talk about an Enoch and it could just be any one of the 1,000. It's like being called John now, although there were loads of Johns back in Bible times.
I'm not getting into the whole thing with the Bible, the fact that, they had 3 boys and yet there were other kids.
Just don't think about it.
No.
It's too upsetting, and I'm sure there'll be a Netflix documentary on it about in true crime about Eve, poor Eve.
Poor Eve.
Anyway, so in Bible times, that Enoch was the last person to speak or write this language called Enochian until John Kelly and John Dee and Edward Kelly received it through scrying. We talked about scrying in the one about divination. They received it through scrying, and John Dee would write it down in his manuscripts.
Right.
So where supernatural and this, from this world kind of splits is the intricacy of the sigils that are revealed on the walls of the usually abandoned
So many abandoned
warehouse.
warehouses.
Yeah, what is going on with all that real estate? What a waste of money. So all of the abandoned buildings that they end up with at San and Dean and Castile, they end up going in and they're all covered in this, what they call angel warding or whatever, and it's sort of like really intricate and super fancy. That isn't the Enochian that exists in this world that John Dee and Edward Kelly wrote down. Their alphabet was kind of very simplistic. It might be like in the shape of a reverse R, that kind of really simple. But the way that the Sam and Dean use it in Supernatural is probably part of the narrative construct, because it doesn't look as shit to have like a super...
A line with a dot next to it.
Exactly. That's all you get. So they make it nice and pretty, and then they call it Enochian. Right. But it does at least come from something.
Okay.
So, but interestingly, do you remember in Supernatural where they get that kid from the Wiener Hut who's an angel?
He's an angel,
and they stick that thing on his head to reset him.
When the demons torture him.
The demons torture him. And they reset him to factory settings.
Yes.
And he starts speaking like, Ave Te. That is the phonetics of the real Enochian from this reality, this world. Yeah, so it kind of comes from somewhere, at least.
All right. So, would the Enochian from our world be considered seals and sigils, that sort of thing, or is that just a language?
No, it would be considered seals and sigils, because you can use the language in a very similar way, because when you look at the texts that John Dee and Edward Kelly wrote, they have in there like rituals, like they've got like this almost like an altar thing that the idea is that you practice your magic in one place, and they create this it looks like a table or some kind of spirit board thing, but round the outside is the Enochian. So it's there to fulfill a purpose in probably a similar, I'm just guessing now, but probably in a similar way that we have spirit boards and they have the English alphabet on it, and it's there to fulfill a purpose of helping you spell things out.
All right.
So it is used in a similar way, and you can combine them and make phrases that you can write on pieces of paper as part of a ritual, in the same way that you can create a seal or a sigil, write it on a piece of paper, and it's there to fulfill a job in the spell that you are casting, and we can unravel all of that.
Yeah. Okay. So would that be true of other symbol-based languages like hieroglyphics and things like that?
I imagine, yes, because obviously in ancient Egypt, the language they used was the picture-based hieroglyphics. But for them, magic, science, medicine, it was all one
the same thing.
Yeah, it was all one thing. It wasn't separate and it wasn't to be laughed at. So, yeah, they will have incorporated their language into their, what we would look upon as magic, but they would be, well, you're ill, let's make you better, let's draw a bird, or whatever the bird means in hieroglyphs. And yeah, it would be there to do a job.
Okay, all right, cool. Okay, so supernatural, whilst leans on it heavily, perhaps too heavily, it's actually based on something.
Yeah, based at least
conceptually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you always have to... Do you remember in the one about grimoires where we talked about the fake lore that comes in the beginning of a lot of these magical books?
Yeah, to kind of give credence to what we're saying we've made up a backstory.
Yeah. So John Dee and Edward Kelly, they wrote their Book of Enoch way back in like the 1600 and whatever, when Queen Elizabeth was around. Whenever that was.
The first one.
Yeah, the first one, not the second one, R.I.P. But yeah, the first
no
Queen...
R.I.P. for the first one?
No.
Wow. Literally ridiculous.
So, because did you know that John Dee was her astronomer / astrologer, Queen Elizabeth I?
No.
Oh, well, there you go. So...
I'm learning lots today.
Yeah, so he was a white man in his robes, so magic is fine. Magic is fine. Magic is fine. So when... so John Dee and Edward Kelly, when they wrote their Book of Enoch to capture all of this, they obviously said, angels are telling us this. Angels have said this, so it gives it legitimacy, because it's not from us making it up, it's from the divine, and it's old, super old, because the last person who ever heard of it was that Enoch guy who's descendant from Adam and Eve and super dead, super ancient. So, yeah, so you kind of have to come at this. When I say that supernatural are using something based in reality, obviously bear in mind that it was written in a book using that kind of, air quotes, fake lore suggestion.
They've made something up based on something that somebody else made up a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's, I would just say, just bear that in mind.
Cool. All right. So let's unpack the use in magic a little bit that you touched on there.
Yeah.
Cool.
So when you say unpack...
because, all right, so we've talked about supernatural when they use them often for protection or summoning or something like that. And it's a narrative device a lot of the time. But how would you now, what kind of sigils, what kind of things would you use, symbols would you use, to what end, and how?
All right. Well, I choose to use planetary seals and sigils, not Enochian seals and sigils.
Okay.
But there will be people that practice angelic magic or Renaissance magic that would use that stuff. So to come at it from my experience of using planetary seals and sigils, I use it's almost like an alphabet, but it's not letters, it's numbers. There is a system in mathematics, which, to be clear, I bloody hate maths. It's awful. But there is this thing in maths called a magic square.
So a maths magic square.
A maths magic square.
Not a Rice Krispie treat with marshmallow and sticky sweet goodness and stuff.
No.
Pretty sure they're called magic squares.
Yeah, but they're delicious. Delicious magic squares. But these magic squares I'm referring to are not delicious.
They're made of numbers.
They're made of numbers.
They're far worse.
They taste bitter.
Okay.
But mathematical magic squares, then they were, I don't know, I guess invented, created, whatever, not for magical reasons. They were created.
Math's fun.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what? And they look like...
Maths is dumb.
It is dumb.
Let's make some magic squares.
Exactly.
Try and inject some life into this maths problem.
And I don't understand maths, like, at all. And I don't understand why, centuries ago, a bunch of nerds would sit around and try and draw what looked like Sudoku things for fun and to solve maths problems. But I'm sure there must have been some maths reason why they needed to have these square boxes with numbers in them that all added up to the same amount.
It's like a grid, yeah? It's a grid, 3x3, 4x4, square, always square.
Always square.
5x5, 6x6. I could keep going.
Yeah.
But you get it. And in that grid, each horizontal line and each vertical line, the numbers in those grids add up to the same number.
And the diagonals.
And the diagonals as well. Damn.
Yeah, and I don't understand what the problem was they were trying to solve with
They're
that.
just testing themselves.
I don't know, but nerds, right?
Look how smart I am with my maths.
But they did. They created these. They're called the magic squares because they put all the numbers and they all add up to the same thing. Yeah. And that's the only magic bit about it, which is not magic. Not in the way I mean it.
It's maths magic.
It's maths
magic, man.
Exactly. So using those mathematical magic squares, it was some point centuries ago in the Middle East when, they used to call it Persia, was like the goat at everything. Science, maths, they were the winners. Mm-hmm. So people at that point started to attribute the first 7 mathematical magic squares. They made these correspondences with the 7 planets, the 7 that they could see at the time.
Okay, and just to clarify, they didn't actually mean the planets, did they?
They meant the moon and the sun as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So the planets that people could look up and see.
Celestial objects that were visible to the Persians way back when.
That's right. And it was at some point that they started to attribute the magic of that with what was going on above.
Okay.
And you can use these numbered squares to create sigils and seals by looking at the numbers and how they might marry up with words and letters of the alphabet. And you can use like a Pythagorean system to do that. I did not invent any of these things. They're just tools, old tools that exist. So you can look at the seal of Saturn, the magic square for Saturn, which is the smallest one.
Yeah. So just before you get into that bit, so the Pythagorean thing, it's allocating numbers to letters, like a code, basically. Yeah. So A equals 1, 2 equals. Yeah, that sort of thing. So you've got your magic square, which is associated with one of 7 things. So depending on, you would presumably, depending on what you're trying to achieve through your sigil drawing, you would choose the right planetary magic square.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, so the right planetary alignment.
It aligns with what you're trying to do. So once you've got that square, which could be the Saturn, which is 3x3.
Yeah.
Or Venus, which is
a bigger one.
And then you've got your Pythagorean code breaker thing.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to achieve word. So I write the word
balance,
get the
love, whatever.
corresponding numbers, and then using my grid, I draw. Okay, I've got to find number 7. Number 7, that's my start point because it's the first letter.
Yeah.
And then I go to the next letter, next number.
And you make
a line. Draw, and then you end up with just a weird shape.
A weird shape.
And that's your sigil.
That is your sigil.
For the word of the thing you're trying to achieve, which relates to the square you drew it in because of that planetary object.
Yes.
And now you've created your own bespoke, in inverted commas, because it's old and everyone uses it, so everyone's going to have the same one for the word balance or love or whatever. You've created your own sigil for using Magick.
Yes, that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, I have 2 questions.
Go on.
One is, what do you then do with the sigil? And 2 is, have you ever inadvertently drawn one that looked like a penis?
So you can use it as a object of focus. So we talked last time about the one about meditation, where you create an object of focus. So you've got your sigil that you have made. It says balance or love or whatever, and that's your object of focus. Or you could take the sigil and make a talisman out of it, which can be an object that you carry around with you that's connected to balance, love.
Oh, so that you could put it in a locket or something?
You could, yes. Or you could put it on a candle. You use the candle to then, that's your object of focus, and it might do 2 things.
Well, like carve it in, you mean?
Yeah, carve it in. You can, as you say, put it in a locket, or you can carve it into a plate or a metal object that is then used as part of the magic. You carry it with you. You can do all of those things.
Cool. Part of me thinks as well, and I'm not sure if this is like from pop culture type stuff or not, but also if you wrote something and you sealed it with wax, would you then carve it into the wax?
Yeah, you could do. Yeah. And no, I've never drawn a cock and balls because most of the time you're doing straight lines. So it wouldn't really... It would be a very...
robotic.
Spiky cock and spiky balls. So no.
Interesting.
But we could try that. We could try and see what word does a cock and balls spell if you take one of the larger seals and you just kind of reverse engineer it.
Interesting.
It could be done.
You were doing so well at keeping a straight face through all of that up until that point.
Oh,
well done.
I've ruined it.
No, that's good.
So that's sigils that you use the planetary squares for. That's stuff that you can create yourself. But also the planetary squares do come with their own sigil, seal.
Get a planetary square, have some free sigils.
Yeah, have a free one. So as well as using the actual square with numbers in it to draw your own using a codex, like we talked about before, they do come with their own supposed version, because the idea behind it is that if you draw a line that connects all of the numbers together without repeating, it gives you a sigil.
Right.
And those are called planetary seals. And that supposedly, no, it's not true because people have tested it. Supposedly, you take the planetary seal / sigil, you place it over the top of its corresponding magic square, and in theory, all of the numbers should have a line through it.
Right.
But it's not. No, it's not true. It doesn't work. But it was a nice idea. But
I thought you were going to say that it was the name of the planetary object was the kind of like the main sigil, because that would kind of make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, it's not that. So they already come with their own shape.
Right.
So if you didn't want to worry about trying to draw your own, you could just use the seal for like the moon or Saturn or Venus or whatever, because they already exist. You could use that, and again, you could draw that out on a piece of paper. That becomes a talisman. You can carve it into something. That becomes a talisman, object of focus, and you use it in the magic that way. Equally, what you could do is, like they use in Supernatural, there's no reason why you can't put your big sigil like out and proud. Like if you wanted to, you could decorate your walls, and that becomes your magic space, or your space for balance, or your space for love. Don't judge if you want to have a scary den of a love den with sigils everywhere.
Sex dungeon with things all over.
I know, I think I might be a bit wigged out by that.
Yeah. Can you overlay them?
Yeah, you could do.
If you were trying to achieve multiple things, would that work?
You could. That's quite complex.
Would it dilute the...
It wouldn't dilute it, but you are sort of muddling up your planetary correspondences. It's always so much easier to just focus. And I say that because as part of the sigil creation, the rules we follow here at Magenta are all about the planetary astral magic rules. So working with Saturn, you would do that in the hour of Saturn on a Saturday.
Okay, so this goes back to what we talked about previously, where there are certain times for certain different types of thing, and if you start to overlay things, you've got to factor in the fact that there are different times for this bit. So you do this bit over here at this time, then you might have to wait 18 months to do the next bit. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But certainly, so the creation of a talisman, if you wanted to create a talisman about love, relationships, balance, you might choose to work with the planet of Venus. So you might use the planetary seal of Venus, or create your own sigil using the planetary square. You do that on a Friday, because that's the day that Venus rules, and you would do that in the hour of Venus on that Friday, which is usually when the sun comes up, or when Venus is straight above you. But, you need to look at your ephemeris, which is the timetable of stars, basically, to work out when everything is going to be in the right place. So to do that, you wouldn't then want to be kind of trying to juggle with Saturn and Jupiter and all the rest of them. But it would depend on how you were using the aspects that your planet on a Friday, Venus, is aligning with the other planets out there. And Venus and Jupiter make a nice team up. So yeah, you might want, although you're working on a Friday, your main guy is Venus, you might want to have on the desk, on your altar, the seal of Jupiter, because you might want to align with that. If you can't get it on a Friday, are you working on a Thursday, which is Jupiter's day? It's almost like a hat tip. So yeah, you could use it like more than one together in that way, but I wouldn't try to overcomplicate it too much. Astral magic can get a bit migraine inducing. Basically.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Did you have another question? Did I answer all of your questions?
Yeah, I think you did.
Okay.
Even the one about drawing a penis, which was surprising that you kind of did it so straight-faced as well. Very impressive.
Well, that's what we're here for. How can we incorporate cock and balls into our magic?
That's a different kind of magic.
It is.
Although you did promise, I'm pretty sure, I don't think we've gone through it, but you did promise at one point we would talk about sex magic.
No, we haven't talked about sex magic. Maybe we'll make another episode about sex magic. But yeah, so that's how we use the planetary seals, magic squares, planetary squares, and sigils that you see in pop culture. we can touch a little bit on your alien writing, if you would like to. Because in Marvel's Angels of S.H.I.E.L.D. Marvel's...
Aliens of S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. is aliens.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm talking about, so the TV show, they have this thing called the Diviner, which sounds awesome, and it kind of glows with all of this Cree. It's Cree.
It's a language, isn't it?
It is a language. Now, we might be going a bit on a tangent here, so stay with me.
Okay.
So, you know that there are people here, not here, but in the world, that believe ancient astronauts came, like the Cree, to give us these alphabets and these languages, hieroglyphs. So when we talk about John Dee and Edward Kelly, when they're getting their knowledge supposedly from angels, then there will be people that believe that angels that get written about in the Bible were ancient astronauts, the aliens that were just flying about and popped down and
like Superman.
A bit like Superman, yeah. Now, I don't think I'm one of those people that thinks aliens came to visit us to give us alphabet and numbers and cars and cheeseburgers and stuff, all the things that we've invented. I think I'm one of the people that thinks humans are clever, and they were clever before, just like they're clever now, and they built the pyramids all on their own. So you got a lot of people back in the day who were good at geometry, and they created maths and stuff. And I don't think that came from aliens, personally.
Thank you for clarifying that.
So with the alien writing in Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.,
it's all of their balls.
I don't think it's true.
I don't think it's based on nothing.
No, personally.
Fair enough. Well, that was an important coda to the episode, I think. We don't think Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is real.
Tough. But
Supernatural definitely obviously,
is definitely at least drawing on things from this world, things that existed. Like, so clearly somebody who wrote Supernatural has picked up a grimoire in the past.
You'd hope so.
Had a look through it.
I mean, otherwise there's some deranged-minded individuals out there where they have, I know, 15 seasons of this, just out of my head.
Angels told me.
Yeah, it is quite. It's the Cree.
It is the Cree. But in terms of other seals, so we've talked about planetary seals and how the magic squares work there. There are, in grimoires, all of these other shapes and patterns that exist. So you mentioned in the beginning about Sam and Dean, they have that tattoo on them to
protect themselves.
Yeah, so that they don't get infected with demons.
Possessed, I think, is the technical term. But yes, infected with demons. Oh no, I've got a case of the demons.
Infected with demons. So that is a 5-pointed star, which is a symbol of protection. And they use that a lot. They refer to them as devil's traps.
Mm. I forgot to mention that. Summon, banish, trap, all sorts.
So they use this idea that you can draw a shape on the ground in order to house something and it can't get out of it, even though there are no walls there.
That's hella old though, isn't it?
It is. It supposedly comes from King Solomon. So we talked about the one about grimoires where there are so many books supposedly written
with their fake lore
by Solomon. Solomon told me this, or Solomon sat down and wrote this. So you got the key of Solomon, the lesser key, the greater key, all of these keys. basically in those books are all of these patterns and shapes and drawings which have 5-pointed stars, 6-pointed stars, circles, lots of shapes and symbols. Some of it is language that, like not Enochian, Aramaic, old languages. And they're just in these books because King Solomon supposedly was able to create all of the architecture and the cities and stuff that he did by employing the use of demons, and to keep him safe from their, evilness, because, deities from the past, they're the bad guys, but deities from, that time, they're the good guys. He would house them in these devil's traps. So the idea being that you paint the correct symbol onto a vessel, like a clay pot or a box, or on the ground. And that's where they go when they pop up. You summon them, because it's their at symbol. You summon them. And that's where they are. And that's exactly where they stay. And they do your bidding. Because they're very friendly. They will do what you want.
Perfectly happy to do so.
Apparently.
You see that? Well remembered. Because that just is everywhere in pop culture, isn't it? In books, there's so many different fantasy stories where you summon a demon or whatever. It's joked about now. Where you get like Ladybird Book of Summoning a Demon, that sort of thing. Yeah. So it's that's. I think that's transcended into pop culture more than anything else, hasn't it? The kind of like you draw something on the floor, you do your spell, and you can summon an entity of sorts and bind it into that circle. Don't break the circle, or you're fucked. Yeah,
and then it will just get out and run ragged around the neighbourhood.
Move in next door. make your life a living hell.
Yeah.
Oh, bloody Balthazar's playing his music really loud again. You should have never summoned him. I know. I just wanted him to help paint the walls.
So that's another thing, that these seals and sigils can be used in a magical context. It's not too far of a stretch. So pop culture, when they draw the thing on the wall, they are actually basing it on old magic books, old grimoires.
Real.
They are real. These books are real.
No, I know the books exist, but I mean, the origin, the provenance of the stuff that's in them is often given, as we've said, a bit of an embellished backstory.
It is, to just kind of add that extra credibility to it.
These are amazing. Where did you learn it? Solomon?
Yeah, King Solomon.
Really?
King to see me.
He's been dead for a while.
Yeah, so that's another thing that they can be used for that purpose. If your magic is about working with entities.
Cool.
And I don't subscribe to the idea that, the demons, evil, they're there to possess you, they're going to do you harm, blah, blah, blah. Angels, they're the good guys, they will be there to help you. I don't think it's as clear-cut as all of that. I think, much like people, you work with someone, they can be nice. You work with another person, they can be a twat, but it doesn't mean all people are nice or all people are twats.
Yeah. And sometimes you can work with a person who was nice before and they're now a twat.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
So, and that's just as true for the entities that we can't see. If we want to work with them, just be careful. Don't rub them up the wrong way.
It's a common opinion within Supernatural that the angels are dicks.
Yeah, the angels are dicks.
So.
And then sometimes the demons are the alright guys.
All right.
They're the alright guy, exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
So, and that's how we use seals and sigils in magic.
Lovely.
Any other question?
No. I think that has answered all of my questions and more.
Oh, all of your questions and more.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. that's our show.
So that's it. That's our show. If you liked it, give us a rating and review, share with others, tell your friends. You'll find all our contact stuff over at magentaschoolofmagic.com, including our social media and links to the Magic School itself.